Hi everyone, welcome back to English for You. I'm Pat.
And I'm Ben.
So today we're looking at the second day of our article about a visit to the bakery. We saw in day one that Emma and her mum go to a local bakery, something that's not too far from where they live. It's in their neighborhood or their area.
Yeah, and anyway, Emma said she loves the smell, but notices that the bread is different from that in the bakery they usually go to. So there's something different. Maybe color-wise, it smells different than what they're used to.
Yeah, her mum explains that this bakery has a wider variety of breads. So there are more different kinds of things. Maybe usually they just go to a place with 4 or 5 kinds and they get what they want. Here, there are loads of different breads. She also adds that most of these breads are made from whole grains. Now, we talked a bit about that yesterday. Whole grain bread is usually a lot healthier than just white bread.
But they also look at some rye bread and also at bread with cheese, nuts, and fruits baked into them. So there is a lot of variety of breads they can choose from, not just white bread. They have whole grain bread, fruit bread, nut bread. So there's a lot of choices that she can choose from.
Exactly. And as she's looking around, she sees some black bread. She thinks, hang on, has this bread gone bad? Often if food is gone black, we think, can we safely eat this anymore?
Exactly.
And what did she find out?
And her mom explains that it is a slightly sweet German bread called pumpernickel.
Okay.
Yeah, and Pat said he had tried some pumpernickel, which I have not tried yet, but apparently you can buy some at Taiwan, maybe Mr. Mark, so you should keep your eye out for that.
Yep, so they're talking about it when the baker offers them some samples which they go to try. He gives them small pieces so they can see, oh, do we like this one? What do we think? Shall we buy it? Okay, now we're going to see what they thought of those samples and which kind of breads they're going to buy. Let's read through the article.
Reading.
Visiting the bakery. Emma and her mom are chatting with the baker.
So, did you enjoy the pumpernickel?
It's nice, but we won't buy it today. However, we will take some of those croissants.
Good choice. We have some berry preserves that go well with croissants.
This one is made with cherries. It looks delicious.
It is, and it's also homemade.
We'll take a jar of that as well. How long will this bread stay fresh?
It should be good for a few days in your cupboard. However, if you don't want to eat it all at once, you can put it in your freezer. That will prevent it from going stale.
Look at this poster, Mom. It says this shop sells egg tarts.
That's right. However, the next batch won't be ready until 3 p.m.
Aw.
Don't worry. We'll get some next time. How much is all this?
It comes to $650. Would you like to pay by cash or credit card?
By card, please.
Emma's mom pays for the bread.
Alright, so let's look at the article. So Emma and her mom are chatting with the baker. Now, they could be chatting about anything. What the baker might say is of tasty bread, what the baker likes, or what kind of bread they're looking for.
Yeah, what's
fruity,
ingredients
sweety.
are in it, how is it made, that kind of thing. So now we remember from yesterday, the baker was talking about the pumpernickel and saying we have some samples here. So he asks Emma and her mum, so did you enjoy the pumpernickel, this black, slightly sweet bread from Germany?
Yeah, so the mom says it's nice, but we won't buy it today. However, we will take some of those croissants, which is not a bad choice. I am a big lover of croissants. Like, they can go good with anything.
Okay, so what do we mean with this kind of bread?
Yeah, so a croissant is a type of sweet bread shaped in a curve and usually eaten for breakfast.
Yeah, it's in the UK you will hear people saying croissant in a different way. We kind of follow the French pronunciation of the word.
Which is different because in the US we always hear croissant, but I do hear more Europeans say croissant or have a different stress
Yeah, it's just because I guess we're next door to France, and it's the country that a lot of people would visit and get it, so there's more of the French influence in some of our words.
Yeah, like we have the same in the US for some Mexican influences, so I guess that kind of makes it
Exactly, yeah. So, by the way, if you want some good croissants, there's one in Taipei called, I think it's My Croissant by a French guy called Guillaume.
Oh, I think I know that. I think I've been there,
down
yes.
by Xinyi Anhe MRT station. It is really good. Definitely go there.
Keep that in
I'm not
mind.
being paid to say this. They're good. Okay, so Mom is ordering some of these croissants, and the baker says, good choice. You know, he thinks it's a good idea. He also adds, we have some berry preserves that go well with croissants or croissants. So sometimes you can buy a croissant with like chocolate in it or bits of lemon or lots of flavors. You can also get ones, plain ones, but you can kind of cut them open and add some stuff inside to give it flavor. In this case, we're talking about a preserve. A preserve is, it's a few things actually. It's any kind of thick, sugary gel with pieces of fruit in that gel. And it kind of stops the fruit going bad. You can keep these preserves for a long time. Of course, the word preserve as a verb means kind of keep it in the same condition. So using it as a noun, it kind of makes sense that it's food that can be lasting a long time. Some examples of this are jam. Any kind of jam is a preserve. Marmalade, which is a jam kind of thing made with oranges, that is a kind of preserve. So either of these will go well with croissants.
All right, so let's take a look at our phrase, to go well with. Now, this relates to things that match well with each other. So most times we'll say it for food or clothing, such as your shoes go well with your dress, or the bread goes well with wine. And we can also use it for accessories. For example, a girl's earrings, or jewelry, or like a watch could go well with your suit or your dress.
So in yesterday's chat question, you mentioned peanut butter and jelly on bread, right? Those two things, they go well together.
That is a good one, yeah.
Can we think of any more examples of like foods that go well together?
Oh, I know pasta and that pasta sauce, the red sauce, marinara sauce, those go well with each other.
Okay, I'll take a very British one. Fish and chips.
Oh, that is very...
Fried fish and French fries. We call them chips. They go well together.
Yeah,
we got any more like that, which are good for kind of pairing up?
Yeah,
What about any Taiwanese food? Beef and noodles, I suppose.
That is a good one, yeah.
As kind of a soup thing, as a combination dish.
I know for breakfast, like eggs and maybe like a soy milk.
Yes, like a danbing and a soybean milk. Good combination.
Or even soy milk and black tea.
They go well together. Yeah. Okay, so the baker is talking about these preserves which go well with the croissants, and Emma says this preserve is made with cherries. It looks delicious. So yesterday we talked about a few different fruits and vegetables, fruits and grains. We're now going to introduce another kind of fruit, which is a cherry. A cherry is a fruit with a sweet outside, and they can kind of be anything from sort of pale reddish yellow color to almost black. There's a big range of cherries. They can either be sweet or sour. The sweet ones you can eat by themselves. The sour ones are usually made into other things. All cherries have this hard stone in the middle. So you've got to be careful. I think maybe there's one or two types that don't, but generally cherries have a hard stone and you need to be careful you don't bite into it. So here's an example sentence. The bowl of ice cream was served with 2 cherries on top.
Oh, 2 cherries on top.
Yeah, it looks good.
Yeah. So anyway, the baker says it is, and it is also homemade. So that brings us to homemade, which homemade means something is made on your own. Thus, it is not store-bought or pre-cooked. It is something homemade can be made with ingredients that one already has in their house. So you don't have to go to the store and buy some frozen dumplings. You can have the meat and just kind of grind it up, make it yourself, and roll it into the flour, or there's anything can be homemade. Homemade pizza.
Yep.
Homemade
bread we're talking about.
Yeah.
So what he's saying is this preserve, this jam, we didn't go to a big factory and get a load of it. We know somebody who makes their own jam at home. So, and homemade stuff, we normally think it's healthier, right?
It is healthier. It's a little more fresh too, but healthier is, homemade apple pie. It's has a better feeling.
Exactly. They generally homemade. They don't add as much sugar or salt or other things to kind of keep it on a shelf for a long time.
If you look at the ingredients of a packaged food, there's a lot of small ingredients they put on there, which homemade is just the bare minimum, just fruits and what you need.
Just the good stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so after talking about that cherry preserve, the mum says, we'll take a jar of that as well. So a jar is a kind of container, usually used for food. Now, a jar is often made of glass, but you could have a plastic jar as well. With food, it's used for storing either solid food or food that is almost solid. So we talk about jars of jam, jars of peanut butter, that kind of thing. Jars come in many shapes and sizes. One thing with a jar, it's always going to have a lid on it, either something you can screw on, pop on, attach it constantly, something like that. There's always a lid. So here's an example. At the supermarket, Dion bought a large jar of peanut butter.
Anyway, to go back to the article, Mom says, how long will this bread stay fresh? Which is a good question. And normally, when you look at the package of something, it will say how long it is fresh till. When does it expire? Go bad.
Yeah, but not all breads in the shop, they don't always have a date on it. So sometimes they do, but maybe not. So Mum wants to know, how long is it going to stay fresh? How long before we have to go, oh, we can't eat that, we need to get rid of it. And the baker tells her it should be good for a few days in your cupboard. So here he's using good to mean good to eat. It's still fresh. You can eat it and it won't cause any problems. Maybe it won't taste as good as when it's fresh, but it's still good. You can still eat it. So he says it'll be good for a few days in a cupboard. A cupboard is a kind of piece of furniture and it's built either into a wall or into a space. It could stand by itself, and a cupboard will always contain several shelves, drawers, or just areas where you can hang things. And a cupboard will always have a door. Otherwise, it's more like a shelf. A cupboard shelf, sometimes they sort of cross over.
Yeah, there's definitely a door to open.
Yeah, there should usually be a door to open. And the purpose of a cupboard is to store things. So a kitchen cupboard would contain food, but also things like plates and all, cooking pots, that sort of thing. Other cupboards could contain like board games, books, clothes, basically anything you want to put in there to get it out of your way where you kind of don't need it all the time. So here's an example of cupboard. Put those instant noodles on the second drawer of that cupboard over there. So kind of put them just there. That's where the instant noodles go.
Yeah, a lot of times snacks will just go in the cupboard, just packaged snacks. So yeah. So anyway, back to the article. The baker says, however, if you don't want to eat it all at once, you can put it in your freezer. Yeah, which is a good idea. But,
yeah, it is. Freezing bread is something we haven't really got enough room in our freezer to do it. But I know my mum, like I said, she bakes bread. She will maybe bake 2 or 3 loaves. 1 or 2 will be fresh and 1 will go in the freezer so that maybe if they need to get some more out for more family visitors or when they come back from a vacation, they can go, okay, we have some bread, we just take it out of the freezer. And that's good because they don't want to eat it all at once.
Exactly. And I find out I freeze bread sometimes. It normally lasts about a month, whereas if I put in the refrigerator, it's maybe 2 weeks. So just putting that out there. Anyway, all at once, this phrase means to do something at one time. Thus, you will not spread out the time between doing something. To do something all at once normally means to do something immediately. So you don't have to finish something between 2 or 3 days. It can just happen maybe right now. For example, I can eat this pie all at once instead of putting it back in the freezer.
Okay, you could also say he cleaned the house all at once. So he kind of did it in sort of 2 or 3 hours rather than doing separate tasks over the course of different days, for example. So yeah, if you've bought a big loaf of bread, maybe you don't want to eat it all at once because even though it's tasty, you might feel like, oh, I've already eaten loads of that bread. I'm kind of tired. I want to eat something else. So in this case, we will put it in the freezer.
Yeah, save the flavor for another time.
Now, a freezer is the coldest part of the fridge, and this is where you can make ice or store ice. You can store frozen things, or you can freeze things in there so they'll keep for a long time. We often call this an ice box. And we usually use ice box if you have one fridge and you open it and just the bit at the top where the ice is, that's the ice box. Sometimes you open a freezer and it has 2 doors, one for the fridge and a bit at the top for the freezer. Or you could just have a giant big freezer, maybe that you have in your garage or just somewhere else in your kitchen. You often see them in a 7-Eleven. They have just a place for the frozen stuff. That's the freezer or the ice box. Here's an example. Victor took the ice cream out of the freezer and put it in the fridge for a while to make it ready to eat. So the baker says if they want to keep the bread, they can put it in the freezer. And why will they do this?
Yeah, that's a good idea. And the baker says that will prevent it from going stale. Now, stale, we mean typically food that is no longer fresh. It turns a bit hard and does not have the same taste as it once was when it was first bought or prepared. For example, the bread turns stale as we didn't eat it for over 2 weeks. Yeah, it kind of has loss of flavor, maybe a little hard. Yeah,
exactly. We often use stale for bread and similar kind of products like that made of like dough or pastry. We probably wouldn't really use stale for apples, would we?
No, they'll just go bad, moldy.
So that it works for certain kinds of food, usually especially baked ones, breads, things like that. Okay, so while Mom is discussing how to keep their bread fresh with the baker, Emma looks around and says, oh, look at this poster, Mom. It says this shop sells egg tarts. Now, I believe this is one of your favorites.
Yes.
An egg tart is a baked pastry. It's common in Hong Kong, Macau, and other parts of Asia. I think they first come from Portugal. And there's an outer crust that's got an open top of pastry. And there's egg custard in the top. And then the top is always a bit brown and yellow, isn't it? Where they've sort of cooked the sugar a bit more. But inside it's like soft and yellow and very sweet.
Perfect combination. Inside is soft, a little moist too. And the outside is a little moist, hard shell a little bit, but perfect combination. So anyway, the baker says that's right. However, the next batch won't be ready until 3 p.m. Now, batch, we mean a quantity of goods produced at a time. Now, this could be like a batch of cookies.
Yep.
Just however many things you put in the oven to be made.
Exactly. And we don't just use it for food. You could talk about a batch of different products all being made at the same time in a factory.
A batch of apples.
Yeah. So some bakeries do this. They say, we make these and they come out at this time of day. And then you see a long line of people wanting to get them at that time. And then they run out. So Emma kind of says, "Aw." So obviously there's no egg tarts right now. They'd have to get them at 3:30 or 3 p.m., whatever it was.
Yeah. But Mom says, don't worry, we'll get some next time. How much is this all? So what's the total cost?
Yeah, how much is all this? The baker says it comes to 650 NT dollars. Now here he used the phrasal verb come to, and it's quite a specific phrase that just shows the total amount of something. Often a price. So if you're reading, if you have a restaurant, you've got a bill, you've 3 or 4 different items, you say, what does it come to? That means what's the total? Or you buy a bunch of things in a shop, you say, what does that all come to? And you're just asking, what's the final total price?
Yeah, it sounds a little better than asking, what is the price? It softens it a little more polite. So anyway, the baker says, would you like to pay by cash or credit card? Common question. Yeah, a lot of good restaurants or, go shopping, stores, they'll say, would you like to pay by cash or credit? But anyway, by credit card, we mean a plastic card is given from a bank, which allows the holder to buy goods on money borrowed from the bank. So for an example, we can say, I paid for my suit with a credit card as the price was a bit high and I did not have that much cash on me. So it's mainly for, I guess, higher purchases.
Yeah,
maybe,
or if you don't have money, of course you have to pay it back later.
Yes.
You don't just use the card and that's
Magic,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, okay. Emma's mom says, by card, please. So she's going to pay by credit card.
And then Emma's mom pays for the bread.
Yeah, so they've got their stuff, and that is it. They will leave the bakery. And that brings us to the end of today's article. So now let's go to our For You Chat question.
For You Chat.
Okay, so the question here is, can you think of some dishes that are made with bread? What are they? So we don't just mean bread here, we're using bread as one of several ingredients. So what have we got? What can we think of?
Yeah, there's so many different kind of foods out there that are made with bread, but ones that come to mind are, my favorite food is Indian food.
Okay.
Now, their bread is kind of soft, it's a little moist too.
Yep.
And you dip it in curry, a lot of spicy curry flavors and different sauces. And that's my salty kind of dish that I like for bread.
Okay.
But for sweet, I like French toast.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
so what is French toast?
Yeah, French toast is bread and you kind of, I'm not sure how you make it actually. I think you fry it in a pan.
Yeah, you basically get the bread and you mix up eggs and milk and a few spices. You dip the bread in it and then kind of fry it in butter on both sides.
Exactly.
So you get this sweet bread. You pour maple syrup or honey over it.
Exactly, it's perfect.
Yeah, of course, a sandwich is a dish made with bread, pieces of bread. A burger is also made with a type of bread. You can also use the bread crumbs. The crumbs are the small pieces of bread when you kind of break it up. And you would use breadcrumbs to kind of cover it and deep fry something. So you get like breaded goods, often frozen goods and deep fried goods like that. So bread isn't just like bread, put something on it, eat it, or eat it by itself. The ingredient can be used to make a whole load of other things. Okay, that's all we've got time for today. Thanks for watching, everybody. For English For You, I'm Pat.
And I'm Ben.
Talk to you again next time. Bye-bye.
Visiting the bakery. Emma and her mom are chatting with the baker.
So, did you enjoy the pumpernickel?
It's nice, but we won't buy it today. However, we will take some of those croissants.
Good choice. We have some berry preserves that go well with croissants.
This one is made with cherries. It looks delicious.
It is, and it's also homemade.
We'll take a jar of that as well. How long will this bread stay fresh?
It should be good for a few days in your cupboard. However, if you don't want to eat it all at once, you can put it in your freezer. That will prevent it from going stale.
Look at this poster, Mom. It says this shop sells egg tarts.
That's right. However, the next batch won't be ready until 3 p.m.
Aw.
Don't worry, we'll get some next time. How much is all this?
It comes to $650. Would you like to pay by cash or credit card?
By card, please.
Emma's mom pays for the bread.
Vocabulary Review.
Cherry. We washed the dark red cherries and baked them in a pie. Jar. Ricky scooped a bit of jam out of the jar and spread it on her toast. Cupboard. After washing and drying the dishes, Harry put them back into the cupboard. Freezer. Jerry's ice cream melted because he put it in the fridge instead of the freezer. Stale. Carl left his breakfast on the table while he slept, and when he woke up, the bread was stale. Credit card. Paul bought many expensive things with his credit card, and next month he will need to pay for them.
智慧小补帖。
preserve, homemade, batch.
以上节目是由活用空中美语制作，活用空中美语杂志，请洽询全国各大书店。如欲索取试听教材，请来电02-2364-4000 02-2364-4000，或上网查询，网址是 www.english4u.net www.english4u.net